For so many people, the dream of owning a home feels like it's just getting further and further away. But what if the problem isn't just about a crazy market? What if it's actually baked into the rules of the game? Today, we're diving into a new mission that's trying to tear down those hidden barriers to homeownership one by one. This quote right here, it gets straight to the heart of it. It's about a total shift in how we think. Instead of treating people like they have to prove they're worthy of a home, the idea is to start from a place of optimism, a place of yes. It suggests the problem isn't just about numbers on a page. It's a problem of perspective. So the man behind that quote is Ashley Thomas III. He's the new president of NAREB, the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. Now, with over 25 years in the real estate and lending world, he's taking the helm and leading a major charge with a super clear vision for what housing in America should look like. And that vision, it has a name: Closing the Gap. It's all built on three really powerful ideas: advocacy, affordability, and access. And look, these aren't just buzzwords. They're part of a real, targeted strategy to fix a system that, let's be honest, a lot of people feel is pretty broken. So how do you even start a mission this huge? Well, you've got to begin by finding the little cracks in the foundation. The small, often overlooked rules and policies that end up having these massive, real-world consequences for families just trying to buy a house. And one of the very first cracks NAREB is going after is something they're calling the spouse debt trap. Yeah, it sounds pretty dramatic, but as you're about to see, this one little underwriting rule can literally stop the dream of homeownership in its tracks for thousands of people. I mean, just think about this for a minute. You're applying for a mortgage, all by yourself. It's just your name on the application. But could your spouse's student debt or their car loan completely sink your chances? In a surprising number of cases, the answer is a big, fat yes. And we're not talking about some fringe issue here. A whopping 83% of all first-time homebuyers depend on FHA loans. That means any little flaw in the FHA system creates this huge ripple effect, and it hits the very people who need the most help getting into a home. Okay, so here's how this trap actually springs shut. In 9 specific states, if you're married and applying for an FHA loan solo, the underwriter has to add your spouse's debt to your application. But, and this is the craziest part, they do not add their income. So you get stuck with all the liability with none of the assets to back it up, which makes it incredibly tough to qualify. What's really wild is how inconsistent this is. This isn't some standard across-the-board rule. Big players like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, they don't require this. NAREB calls it an underwriting imbalance, and they're pushing HUD and the FHA to fix what they see as a fundamentally unfair practice. It just doesn't make sense. And listen, this isn't just some abstract policy debate. It's the law in these 9 states right now. If you're living in Arizona, California, Idaho, Louisiana, Nevada, New Mexico, Texas, Washington, or Wisconsin, this rule could be directly affecting your ability to buy a home today. But fixing that one rule, that's just the start. This mission to close the gap zooms out to look at the entire picture of federal housing policy. A lot of the time, the conversation is all about one thing. We just need to build more houses. But you know what? That's only half the story. Let's break it down. You can think of the housing crisis as having 2 sides. You've got the inventory side, which is all about supply, building more homes. But then there's the access side. I mean, even if 1 million new houses appeared overnight, could people actually afford them once you factor in insane interest rates, insurance costs, and property taxes? So, according to Thomas, the recent federal bills are actually doing a pretty good job on the inventory problem, which is great, we need that. But he argues they've totally missed a huge opportunity to do anything about the access side of the equation. That leaves regular people to face all those rising costs completely on their own. All right, so if government policy is only tackling half the problem, where do you look next? Well, the next target is the actual machinery of the housing industry itself. We're talking about the financial products, the regulations, all the stuff that decides who gets a loan and who gets to build wealth. NAREB's approach here gets really specific. They're targeting 3 big areas that are all connected. First, the kinds of mortgage products that are even available. Second, how hard it is to get a loan to fix up an older home. And third, that persistent, nagging problem of appraisal bias. And they've got real ideas for each one. First, let's rethink how mortgages are paid off so homeowners can build equity faster. Second, let's make those renovation loans easier for everyday families to get, not just big-time investors. And third, let's create one federal system for appraisals to make sure it's fair and consistent everywhere, instead of this patchwork of state rules we have now. So, after digging into all these specific problems and potential fixes, it all comes full circle, right back to that first idea, optimistic underwriting. It's about so much more than just changing a few policies. It's about putting people, actual human beings, back at the very center of the whole housing system. And look, this is not just talk. They have a concrete plan to make it happen. They're on Capitol Hill advocating directly with policymakers. They're taking their message on the road with an 8-city bus tour. And they're getting their local chapters involved with Realtist Restore Day to actually help families with home repairs, putting boots on the ground. This quote really captures what's driving this whole mission. It's this belief that somewhere, the system just lost its way and started prioritizing profit way more than people. This whole effort is about trying to get that balance right again. And all of this leaves us with a final question to chew on. We've talked about optimistic underwriting and a people-first approach, but what does that world really, truly look like? What changes when the main goal of our housing system isn't just to avoid risk, but to actively go out and create opportunity? Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.